Jose Theodore before his magical 2001 season was nothing more than a bounce-around goaltender who would make very few appearances in the crease. In fact, Theodore before his rise to dominance would only appear in 2 playoff games as a reliever, actually winning a game against the New Jersey Devils in 1997 in triple overtime. Theodore would become a full-time backup in the 99-2000 season, and the following year, he'd be upgraded to the starting role going 20-29-5. The potential for Jose at that point was there, and he just needed to break out. And in 2001, Jose Theodore sent shockwaves throughout the NHL. Theodore would go 30-24-10, leading Montreal to the postseason while racking up some serious hardware along the way. His astonishing .931 save percentage and 2.11 goals against average would help him clinch a deserving Vezina trophy. However, his heart win is what confuses many to this day, as he took down some elite competition. Third place that year was Patrick Waugh, who actually had a better goals against average with a 1.97, and in second place was a red-hot Jerome Ugonna, who tore up the league with 96 points. Now what makes this even better is that Ugonna and Theodore actually received the same amount of votes, but Theodore's 26 first place votes would take down Ugonna, who only had 23 first place votes. After this win, Theodore would have to prove he was legit, and afterwards, he would continue to be a solid goaltender, but would never play up to his 2001 form. He'd get traded to the Avalanche after his play began to suffer post-lockout, but he would redeem himself, helping Washington win a division title a few years later. Theodore would continue to be a solid goaltender, but he peaked in 01, making his Hart Trophy win shocking to many at first glance. Theodore is just one of many players who receives that same reaction when fans find out a certain player took home a pretty big award, especially the MVP, but Theodore isn't the only goaltender who's peaked early in his career. Steve Mason's Calder win in 2009 is often referred to as one of the weirdest wins in NHL history, and although that may be true, when looking back on his 09 season, Mason isn't as undeserving as many may believe. To start, this guy literally went through knee surgery that September, missing out on the first month of play in the AHL. But when Blue Jackets goaltender Pascal Leclerc suffered an injury months later, Mason would get an unexpected call-up and made an impressive impression right off the bat, winning his first NHL game against Edmonton and then recording his first shutout days later. Mason will be named Rookie of that month, and when Leclerc returned from his injury, he was forced to sit the bench, as Mason will begin to tear up the NHL. At one point, Mason would go on an insane shutout streak and be named to the NHL Young Stars game, and Mason would end up finishing that season with a .916 save percentage and a 2.29 goals against average. Now, these may seem like average numbers to many, but up to this point, Columbus didn't have a franchise goaltender, and in fact, never even made the playoffs until that season. Steve Mason's impact on the Jackets and on the league would earn him a Calder nomination and eventually a Calder win. And after defeating Chris Versteeg and a red-hot Bobby Ryan, all eyes were on Mason to see just how legit he really was. And Mason would come back the following season looking strong once again, but this time failing to reach the playoffs. And it was after his second season where Steve Mason would begin to suddenly decline. He'd suffer more losing records in Columbus, and it wasn't until being traded to Philly where Mason would record another 30-win season. Mason's magic would eventually run out, as after testing the free agent market, he'd be forced to play a backup role in Winnipeg, eventually getting bought out due to, once again, poor performance. Many believe Mason winning that Calder is strange due to the average stats he posted, which technically isn't wrong, but I believe Mason won that year due to the huge impact he had on the Jackets organization, as up to that point, Columbus was nothing but mediocre, and Steve Mason once looked like their saving grace. Barret Jackman's 2003 Calder Trophy win is arguably one of the most controversial wins the league's seen in a while, as he only had 19 points that year, and because of this, many didn't deem him deserving. But it wasn't Jackman's point total that made him Rookie of the Year. It was his physical dominance and consistency that was the icing on the cake. Jackman was nominated alongside a rookie Rick Nash and Henrik Zetterberg, and this was when Zetterberg led all rookies in scoring with 44 points on an already deep Detroit Red Wings team. So many thought Zetterberg should have taken home the hardware, but Jackman proved that points don't always matter, as he won due to his ability to shut his opponents down. In fact, he finished that season posting a +23 plus-minus, being one of the most valuable members on his team. His 19-point season would foreshadow the rest of his career, as Jackman would go on to have a lengthy career, posting right around the same numbers of points he'd rack up that rookie season. Jackman would peak in the 2006-2007 season, posting 27 points, but would once again go back back to his 15-20 point consistency. He would spend more than a decade with the Blues before finishing his final year in the NHL with the Nashville Predators. Jackman wasn't a one-year wonder, nor was he really a bust. He just proved that defense is heavily underrated, and that sometimes points aren't the only thing that determines a player's true value.
Wow, I really didn't think I was going to win this.
Jim Carrey is often referred to as one of the biggest NHL one-year wonders, and that 1 year happened to be the year where Carrey would take home the Vezina Trophy. In the 1995-1996 season, Carrey would take down both Chris Osgood, Ron Hextall, and even Martin Brodeur to take home the Vezina. But how did he get here? Well, in 1994, just a year prior, he got his first call-up, dominating the competition. Carrey would go undefeated in his first 7 games and would be named Washington's starting netminder for the 95 season. And this is where Carrey would pop off. During his Vezina winning season, Carrey would record 9 shutouts, 35 wins, and post a 2.26 goals against average and a .916 save percentage, helping Washington make the postseason. This was extremely impressive, and many believe Carrey could be the Capitals' goalie of the future. But the Caps felt otherwise, and for some reason shipped off the Vezina winner to Boston in a blockbuster trade. And this would backfire for Carrey, as once arriving in Boston, he would never really fit in, and would not only decline, but would only play in 73 more NHL games throughout his career, eventually being sent down to the AHL. Carrey's Vezina win is strange, but is also kind of sad in many ways, as it symbolizes the promise and hope Jim Carrey had to become a star player. But a change of scenery sealed his fate, making him one of the 2 one-year wonders in this video. The other one is someone a little more special.
You absolutely need from Scott. Here's Cheechoo.
Jonathan Cheechoo is one of the most fun to watch players to look back on. The guy seemed to have it all: the hands, the shot, and the hockey IQ necessary to succeed at the NHL level. And at first, things were going extremely well for the young forward. Just a year before his monster 05 season, Cheechoo recorded 47 points in 81 games alongside Mike Ricci and Scott Thornton. However, Cheechoo would strive under a new Thornton the following season, helping him explode offensively. In 2005, the Sharks would trade for Bruin superstar Joe Thornton, who would pair him alongside the promising Cheechoo. And right away, Thornton and Cheechoo would begin to tear up the league, becoming one of the best duos at the time. Thornton would tally over 90 assists that season, and the majority of them were to Jonathan Cheechoo, as Cheechoo would score a whopping 56 goals and 93 points, helping him take home the Rocket Richard for the most goals scored that season. Cheechoo would be awarded a huge contract after the fact, as he looked to be the next star in San Jose. However, during the offseason, the following season, Cheechoo would undergo a double hernia disc surgery to repair an injury he withstood during the Sharks playoff run, and this would eventually begin to affect Cheechoo's on-ice performance, as he would never be the same offensively, declining every season and eventually being sent down to the AHL after being traded to Ottawa. Cheechoo is barely remembered by newer fans today, and because of it and his bizarre one-year stretch, it makes Cheechoo seem like one of the most strangest award winners in NHL history, but he may not be the strangest of all time. If strange is what you're looking for, then perhaps Sergei Makarov's Calder season is the only correct way to end this video. Makarov, at the time of winning the award, was 31 years old, making him the oldest player to ever win the Rookie of the Year award. But to Makarov, age was just a number, as he was a beast internationally before making it into the NHL. The reason as to why Makarov made the NHL at such an older age wasn't due to talent issues, it was because he was a part of the Soviet Union, and he had to wait until 1989 to be able to be allowed to play with the Calgary Flames. But once arriving in Calgary, he made an immediate impact. He'd record 86 points in 80 games while having the highest shooting percentage in the entire NHL. Makarov would take down some heavy competition in order to win the award, and because of this, his win would stir controversy league-wide, making many debate whether or not he actually deserved it. Eventually, the NHL would create the Makarov rule, stating that, quote, only players younger than 26 years old on September 15th of their rookie season can be considered as a Calder candidate. Makarov not only sent shockwaves throughout the NHL, but he also made history, and even after failing to meet those same expectations years later, all it took was years of international dominance, over 9 gold medals, and being 31 years of age to make Sergei Makarov one of the strangest award winners in NHL history.